All right, so maybe you've been following the news about India's economic boom, and you're thinking about, maybe investing,
Yeah.
or perhaps you're just curious about, like, how banking works in a totally different system.
Right.
Well, buckle up, because today we are diving deep into the fundamentals of Indian banking,
The foundation.
savings accounts, and current accounts.
Yep.
Now, these might sound familiar, like we have checking and savings accounts here.
Yeah, it's similar.
But trust me, the Indian system, it's got its own unique twists and turns.
Definitely some key differences.
Oh, sure.
Especially when we think about, like, who these accounts are really for.
Right. And also, like, interest rates.
Oh, yeah. Big.
Which actually, speaking of that, blew my mind a little bit when I was reading about this.
Oh, yeah.
Current accounts in India, they don't earn any interest.
It's true.
Like, zero.
Yep.
That's pretty wild to me. I mean, here, we're used to getting at least a little something back on our checking accounts, right?
You would think so.
So why is that? What's the logic behind that in India?
So it's all about purpose, right?
Right.
In India, current accounts, they're really seen as like this transactional tool,
Okay.
primarily for businesses.
Gotcha.
These businesses, they need constant in and out of money, and often in like really high volumes.
That makes sense.
You can imagine if you start layering interest calculations on top of all
It
that,
would be a mess.
it would be a nightmare for the banks to manage, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It adds a lot of complexity.
So, yeah, okay, but that begs the question then, how do businesses in India, how do they make their money work for them
Good question.
if they're not earning interest on that main account?
Right. So this is where it gets interesting, right? It pushes them towards other financial instruments where they can actually see growth.
Like what?
So think about things like fixed deposits, money market accounts,
Okay.
things like that.
So it's less about, like, just passively earning interest and more about actively seeking out those investment opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So it's a different mindset.
Totally different mindset.
Totally different mindset. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that I noticed that was, like, pretty different were the minimum balance requirements.
Oh, yes.
Why are they so much higher for current accounts in India?
Another good observation.
Hey.
This comes back to those operational costs we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Managing a current account, all that money flowing in and out all the time,
Yeah.
requires more on the bank's end,
Right.
more transactions to process, more paperwork, higher potential for errors.
I can see that.
That higher minimum balance helps to offset those costs.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Okay, what about those limits on free transactions for savings accounts?
Oh, yeah.
It seems kind of counterintuitive, right?
You would think.
Like, you're limiting how often I can access my own savings.
Right.
What's up with that?
It might seem that way at first glance, but it's actually kind of a clever way to really encourage that savings mentality. Oh.
By putting a cap on those free withdrawals,
Yeah.
it discourages people from constantly dipping in.
Oh, for like little things.
Exactly, for those smaller expenses.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's promote a longer-term view of financial planning.
Right.
Don't touch those savings unless you really need to.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's like a little built-in nudge.
A nudge, exactly.
Okay, now overdraft protection. That seems to be like pretty standard for current accounts in India,
Yes, very common.
but not so much for savings accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why is that?
You guessed it.
Purpose?
Purpose.
Yeah.
It always comes back to the purpose of the account.
Right.
Businesses, overdraft, that's a lifeline.
That's like a safety net,
Exactly. A safety net, a buffer to manage cash flow.
especially when like unexpected costs pop up.
All the time in business, unexpected things happen.
For sure.
And that kind of flexibility, crucial.
Totally.
Absolutely crucial.
Okay, so if I'm getting this right, savings accounts,
Yeah.
those are for individuals.
Focused on safe, slow, steady growth.
Safe, slow, and steady.
Whereas current accounts,
Yes.
those are the workhorses
Or heavy lifters.
for businesses.
Businesses.
Designed for all those transactions, lots of flexibility.
High volume.
You got it.
Got it.
You got it.
Awesome.
So, we just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you a better understanding of how these two accounts function in the Indian banking system
For sure.
and how they reflect some of those unique priorities and approaches to finance in India.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so fascinating is that, we take our system for granted sometimes,
Right.
but it's really interesting to see how other countries do things differently
Hmm.
and what we can learn from that.
Exactly.
So listeners, if you were setting up shop in India, which account would you choose?
That's a good question.
What does your answer tell you about the priorities of the Indian financial system? Something to think about.
A lot to think about. And we'll be back next time with another deep dive
Sounds good.
into the world of global finance.
Looking forward to it. See you then.
See ya.